Hey guys, Ron here, and while Mega Evolutions have been long gone for years now, generations even, it seems to be the most fan-favorite battle gimmick Game Freak ever introduced. I'm a huge fan of Mega Evolution designs, but I personally received the same satisfaction with all of the G-Max form designs we received last generation. But since fans can't seem to let go of the notion that Mega Evolutions should come back, I decided to feed your obsession with some more. What if older Pokemon that deserved Megas received them, and what if new Generation 9 Pokemon were born in a world where Megas still existed? If you're new here, I make tons of Fakemon videos, so check them out when you're done with this one, and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Now you know which Pokemon we're starting with. I'll give you a few seconds to guess since I need to pad this video so that there's more watch time. The answer is Flygon, by the way, the most requested and desired Mega Pokemon in existence. Sugimori stated that artist block is the reason Mega Flygon didn't exist. The absence of Mega Flygon is so palpable, it's crazy. Now just like with all the other Pokemon in this video, there are loads of Mega Flygons online. I'm not going to show them because I'm actually going to criticize the trends I've seen. A lot of them are either too draconic, too bug-like, or over-designed. I agree that it should finally be a bug dragon in its mega form, but the thing is, Flygon already has bug-like attributes. That's why people associate it with the type. So, you don't have to go over the top with so many bug elements. But the most effective mega concept, in my opinion, is turning it into a desert pilot, adding desert traits that make it look more like an antlion and aircraft. The goggles on this Pokemon are such an important part of its design, so of course they'll be expanded. I have this genius idea of combining a jet fighter helmet with the mandibles and mouth of a bug. Here, I'll show you guys how I'll do it. Giving it a more aerodynamic pose, I want it to look fast, but also longer. Its leg is up since it's mid-stop, like about to turn. We're gonna split its wings to make it look like an antlion and a helicopter, thinner antenna and wider visors instead of goggles. This is a serious fighter pilot. It'll have these mandibles on its cheek that look like the ones that a bug would have, but combine them with a more protruding dragonfly nose. This way it'll look like two pipes that connect to this gas mask. Think Jet Pilot meets Ant-Man. The original Flygon has these protrusions on its knee. I thought that I should invert them to make them look concave. That way its thighs look more like an engine of a plane. Keep in mind they're not actual engines like Miraidon, just a circular protrusion. Way more stripes to confuse its opponents with, and more angular arms. Its tail feathers are separated like the tail of a plane. I thought this wing pattern would look sick, and definitely more bug-like, yet slightly mechanical too. The inside of the wings will be translucent, adding Flygon's literal colors in a slightly different configuration and saturated them a bit too. Flygon's original Sugimori colors may be too desaturated for modern Pokemon art. Check out Mega Flygon, a bug dragon type. Tremendous power surges through Flygon's body, splitting its wings and extending its armor. In this more aerodynamic state, it hovers over the land indefinitely and creates tornadoes in its wake as it blasts off. Its helmet and visor is protected from the sonic booms it generates and the loud melodic flaps of its razor-sharp wings, but as a result, it can barely hear its trainer's commands. Mega Flygon is incredibly impatient and narrow-minded. It can breathe at maximum altitude too. It still has levitate since it's flying, even more now, although I'm aware that an immunity to ground doesn't really do much here. I was debating speed boost since it's already super fast, and tinted lens would have been perfect if it could have had two abilities. Actually, never mind. Tinted lens it is. That makes way more sense. Instead of a shiny similar to shiny Flygon, I opted for one that looks more like a military helicopter. Regardless, it's exactly what I imagined a Mega Flygon would look like. Bug references without being too bug-like and monstrous, sleek and majestic without looking too beautiful. A nice balance of a lot of tiny changes without it looking like a completely new Pokemon. Next, we'll jump over to the most recent generation. Why go through all the trouble of making Megas without including a new Gen 9 Pokemon? Scovillain, to many, feels a bit incomplete. It could use a bit more elements or an evolved form. Good thing that's kind of what Mega Evolution is. We're gonna make it look complete while still a Scovillain, so we can't change too much. Just expand on existing elements. Naturally, we're gonna add a third yellow pepperhead to complete the trio, and since we've got a whole Hydra thing going on, I'll add some leaf wings. Problem is, we want to keep it fire grass, cause why would we strip it of the type combo we've been waiting 20 years for? That's why it won't be a flying or dragon type, despite being more draconic. It's a slightly taller Scovillain with a longer tail and more sturdy legs. Its heads are almost the same. Other than the additional third head, their features, like their beak, will be more angular and sharp, especially the seed fangs. The biggest change are its eyes, making them more sinister and less empty looking. Its patterns are more interesting and its foliage way more wild. Longer serpentine neck as well. Its leaf wings aren't big enough for it to take flight, just making more visible segments in the body. because I thought the original Scovillain had different kinds of greens that were too similar. You barely notice the different shades of green in Scovillain, so my Mega will have more contrast between the different shades of green on its body. It definitely feels more complete now. Beware, Mega Scovillain. Excess energy has caused another head to sprout and wings to bloom. The green and red heads are more affable now and submit to the furious yellow head. They spew spicy flames in all directions, destroying all plants in the surrounding area. It craves dominance and wants to be the only plant in its territory. Mega Scovillain flaps its wings in order to spread dry heat and engulf more terrain in fire. This Pokemon is an anomaly. Scientists still debate about whether Mega Scovillain should be considered a dark or dragon type Pokemon too. Some have postulated that its vile nature is due to the excess infinity energy coursing through it and not its actual desires, and others have declared that its body only vaguely resembles the shape of a dragon, but it does not contain any dragon energy, usually associated with dragon types. As a result, grass and fire is the most appropriate. Its shiny is neat, basically some other natural colors for peppers. I gave it Scovillain's hidden ability, Moody, since that was already very appropriate. I think a lot of people expected this to be Scovillain's evolution, but to make sure it still looked like a Scovillain instead of a full-on evolution, I made sure it maintained every trait, just more monstrous. It's very appealing to see all three pepper colors now. Chandelure is a fan-favorite Gen 5 Pokemon, and for some reason, Unova only received one Mega, the least of any generation at the time except for Gen 6, which obviously wouldn't give us powered-up forms for Pokemon we've just been introduced to. Don't look at G-Max forms though. Many would say that I should just turn a Mega Chandelure into a more extravagant Chandelier, but there are two things preventing me from doing this. First, that would simply be a cosmetic change. What additional power would it gain from being more fancy? Second is that there is technically already a fancy Chandelure Mega, Diancie. It'll look too similar to Mega Diancie, so instead of fancier, I'm going to make it look more practically dangerous. It'll be a wheel Chandelure. Its arms will rotate around it, giving it extra protection. I mean, I'll add a few more fills to make it fancier, don't get me wrong, and of course more candles. Let's begin. We are starting with Chandelure's face. I'm giving it a ring around its body instead of branching arms. Why did I say it like that? The candles will be on top and way more wispy. I wanted to make the flames flow in the direction that its ring arm... Okay, never mind. Never mind. Shut up. Back to my normal accent. I wanted to make the flames flow in the direction that its ring arm is spinning, but that made the design look way too complicated. I gave up on that after adding these spikes. Makes it look even more like a gothic Chandelure. Fancier patterns and curls on the head to make it look more like a Ghost Butler. I was about to say Ghostbuster by mistake. Ghost Butler. Finally changing the flames and finalizing the face, I added Chandelure's color scheme, but thought it would look way cooler and technically hotter with white flames, as if this Pokemon has ascended and it's closer to the afterlife. This also adds more contrast, making it look slightly more imposing. Here is Mega Chandelure. The energy given to Chandelure has increased the size of its flames and the spirit energy it contains. Its arms now orbit around its body. It spins at hypnotic speeds, creating a strong defense against attack. It can extend its orbiting arms, increasing the range of its flame barrier and illuminating spaces in the process. Its near-white flames burn off excess energy obtained through Mega Evolution, so it must constantly absorb life force in order to maintain its Mega form. It releases a tall, vertical light that attracts all Pokemon in the area. As its ultimate attack, it spins sideways and releases a spiritual flame blast from its head. It now has the ability Levitate, which I'm sure is useful, right? It has enough special attack for Flash Fire to not be needed anymore. But who am I to talk? It's the most subtle Mega design of the bunch, but does build upon the existing design without being extravagant. I love the color of the flame, so I ain't complaining. And finally, I'm going to take the most popular Paldean Pokemon and give it a Mega. No, not Clodsire, since a Mega for a regional evolution feels a little too much. How about Tinkaton? The entire premise of the Tinkaton line is that its weapon becomes more complicated as it evolves, so to complete the process, I want to put this menace in a suit of armor. Although putting Tinkaton in a giant mecha suit would make sense too, but that feels like it would make way more sense for a Gigantamax form. But a suit of armor isn't enough, since we definitely need to expand the most important part of this Pokemon, its hammer. What would be a more powerful type of hammer? A hammer that shoots lasers. I'm going to take a bit of inspiration from Jace and his hammer from League of Legends and of course Arcane. It'll pull it all together since weirdly enough, Tinkaton's attack and special attack are relatively similar. This laser hammer will make the stat distribution more logical. I'll begin by making a slightly taller Tinkaton since she's wearing large night boots. For now, there's a hammer placeholder. I hate drawing machinery, so that'll be left for the end of the process. I'm giving it Corviknight-inspired armor, basically implied that it took the head of a Corviknight and pried it open to make a helmet. The knee of a Corviknight will be its breastplate. It's just one fierce Tinkaton. I thought I should keep it happy, so it feels like Tinkaton is having the time of her life, reverting its hair back to ponytail to look like the plumage on the top of some knight helmets. Also, I like ponytails. Its hip feathers will be longer to look like the flowing cloth some knights have draped over their lower body. I don't know if that's historically accurate or a fantasy trope. Finalizing the proportions and armor design before working on the hammer. First, I'm literally just making Tinkaton's hammer with the top open so it can fire lasers. The mini hammer or rattle it had as a Tinkatink will be the power source in the middle. It'll harness the infinity energy. Some colors you're used to, but with the electricity flowing through the hammer. It's tough to make since no other Pokemon has visible branching lightning in its official art. Check out Mega Tinkaton. Now covered in armor, all energy has been diverted into Tinkaton's hammer. It gleefully releases a steady laser from its hammer. Tinkaton is completely stable in this state, as its hammer has absorbed all the dangerous infinity energy. It is no more erratic than it is in its usual state. In fact, the armor it has fashioned from Corviknight restricts its movements, so it only makes deliberate attacks. Its new armor and weapons seem to have fully manifested this Pokemon's intelligence. It has incredible battle IQ and can aim perfectly by calculating trajectory. I gave it the ability Huge Power, but only now realized how we now have 2 Steel Fairy type Megas with huge power, and I'm sure many would find that scary. You love to see it though. It's basically the chaotic energy Tinkaton already had, but at full capacity. It could zap or bonk you, and it doesn't have to worry about the consequences with all this armor defending it. If you want to see more Mega Evolutions, leave a like and subscribe if you want me to make part 2. Let me know in the comments which Pokemon you want to see Mega Evolve next, and how. Make sure to check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, which you can also do by clicking the join button and becoming a member. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, where I show sneak peeks of these designs. I'll see you guys very soon.